left. Welcome to the players left. Yeah. When all the moment, man, it can't compare.
Ute fans, the Utes are now 3-0, obviously moving up into the top 20. We're back for your postgame show. Plenty of things to talk about, plenty of things where could even sound like beating a dead horse. But for another week, I am your host this week, Alex Markham. Calbert the Rocket Beck is away doing family duties on a family reunion. So got my guy Zack Moss here. Zack, man, again, lots of things that we've talked about in recent weeks. You know, some things for maybe some concern, plenty of things to be positive about. How you feeling after this 31-6 Utah win over Wyoming?
Good, man. Got out of there clean, essentially with, no injuries. Lost one guy, potentially, but, got out of there overall pretty clean and got the win and show some good stuff in the second half. Obviously, the first half was not our best football. Essentially, with the yardage, moving the ball up and down the field was really good. Like they got down the field into the red zone on a lot of different trips, which speaks to just still how efficient the offense is. Like what we've been talking about, how efficient the offense is and how they don't beat themselves when it comes to like the play calling, being predictive of what they can and want to do. So shout out to Beck on that because he's been really, really good these first 2 weeks, man. I can't think of a game that you sit back so far these first 3 games and say, like who did we hire or like, what's kind of going on with the offense. It's small stuff right now that you just got to clean up, which obviously was the penalties. I think the penalties now for 2 weeks in a row, going back to the Cal Poly game, is the big thing that, fans was watching the games, we're just shaking our heads a little bit because a Utah coach led team usually isn't going to shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to the penalties. Now that could be a two-faced thing sometimes, right? Like sometimes all penalties aren't bad, right? It's not like we're just out there getting unsportsmanlike penalties and doing stuff after the whistle, right? A lot of this stuff can be cleaned up. It has to be cleaned up because we had, I think, 95 penalty yards and 70 of them in the first half.
Yeah.
Like
10 for 100 total.
Yeah, so you do that next week, like you're not going to survive. Yeah, any week now when you go down this list, right? Any week now you turn around and you do something like that, it's not going to bode well for you. So I think thankfully this is why you schedule these type of games early on in the year, where you get enough competitiveness from a team and you put your team in a hostile environment and things of that nature. So, and the guys responded super well. Like to have the first half they had and this new, hey, we just got to stop the penalties. Like they're not stopping us, right? We're stopping ourselves. I think that showed a lot though, even in the penalty. I think it showed a lot that those guys are able to go into halftime, come back out, and then just end up going 4 for 4 in the red zone for touchdowns, and finish those drives out. So it was awesome to see that. I think that was the biggest takeaway for me is the penalties and then how they responded, right? It wasn't a 17-0 win, right, where the penalties still kept happening. It was, kind of blotchy. They kind of just came out in the second half and did exactly what they needed to do, and they put up 31 points. So they look good overall in the second half. We just got to figure out how to not look like that in any half now going forward in conference play for sure.
You were a team captain, so when something like that happens on one side of the ball and it's lopsided from a penalty standpoint, for anybody it's going to be frustrating. Obviously, you're the type that would take the high road, encourage, and just make sure that they know that they're above that, they're better than that, and that that's not going to keep happening, right? But at the same time, too, that can take a psychological toll when, in this case, it's the defense playing so damn well. I mean, the offense was playing really well, too.
Yeah.
But the defense is pitching a shutout. They're barely giving up any yards. It's 3 and out after 3 and out, it almost feels like. What is going through a player's mind psychologically when the other side of the ball is what is struggling with, penalties so bad.
Yeah. And I've been on teams where, our defense is really good, right? And then our offense, we can't figure much out, right? It could be the penalties, it can just be scoring in the red zone, just putting up points on the board, even though our defense is getting us the ball back and, holding guys down for quite a bit. And I've been on teams where the offense, we play hella good and our defense can't, stop a nosebleed, right? So you kind of have to, with this team specifically, in both of those instances what I was speaking about just now, teams I've played on in college and NFL, we were either really good on one side and really bad on the other. And it wasn't much conversation that you can have outside of, obviously picking your guys up, telling them you believe in them and things of that nature, because it is still, we're all out there doing one job overall to get that win. But like for this team, I think, obviously with the penalties, I don't think the defense wavered on these guys because they know the type of offense they have, right? So I don't think they were ever probably in the headspace of, man, we making all these stops, right? And our offense isn't giving us anything. Like I've seen that before, but with this offense and this team, like they know that their offense is really good. And like I said, like the yardage, if you look at the yardage in the first half and the yardage in the second half, it was very similar, right? It wasn't much of a, maybe they had 75 yards in the first half and then the penalties also on top of it. And they just weren't moving the ball. No, they were moving the ball. They just didn't capitalize at the end of those drives, right? You missed 3 field goals, right? Which is super rare. I think it's going to be a big learning curve for our kicker, right? Like I said, like being in these situations, going to a hostile environment, right? This is not, you're not in Rice Eccles and you're looking at everybody in red or white, right? And it's different when how your nerves feel and how your body feels, right? Like when you play in these hostile environments, man, your body can feel tense. It can feel tight, right? And so you think about that as a kicker. You don't need your leg being tense or tight in no way, shape, or form. So I think it'd be huge for him. But to my point was the defense is not worried because I think the offense obviously showed that, hey, man, we're moving the ball. We just got to finish these drives off, right? Even if they went 4 for 4 in the first half with field goals, it's 12-0, right? So, and they're relaying that message. Coaches are relaying that message back and forth, right? You have the staff at Utah. I'm pretty sure it happened when I was there, and I'm sure it happened before. But like halftime, you got defensive coaches coming up to the offensive guys like, hey, man, you guys keep doing you. We're going to help you guys out, right? Like if it was a game where the defense was struggling a little bit, defensive coaches come up to us and let us know, hey, man, just keep doing what you're doing. Our boys are going to catch on with you guys, right? And if it's vice versa, we had coaches, offenses go over to defense and say the same things. So this team is very well-rounded. The offense is really damn good, right? Like the only thing that stops this offense is themselves, right? And that's a great problem to have. You would have loved to see just a very clean game, getting ready for conference play where you feel super, excited for what's about to happen, or you get a feel what's going to happen. So it gives you a little bit of some question marks and some red flags that are warranted going into the Texas Tech week. So we'll see, but yeah, I think overall, the defense knows that this offense is legit, man. They put up, just look at the numbers. They don't miss with that. And we'll talk about this in a second, but the efficiency, man, like I keep harping on that. Like I feel like every week, just like how efficient this damn offense is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's efficient. We're not seeing the chunk plays, which we can talk about in a bit here too. But it's efficient, so you can't. It's tough to argue over that, right? You mentioned something there that I really kind of want to get your perspective on, and like even just a word of advice for the guy because he's a talented player. But Nate Johnson, right? You talk about the missed field goals. Utah had an awesome drive that they were moving. Nate makes a great run, ends up fumbling near the goal line. I don't know that he came back in the game after that. I know that he didn't have another carry after that, but there was some stuff made at the after the game about how he was on the sidelines, just being down on himself, towel over his head down. Dampier came over at one point, lifted that up and encouraged him, right? In a situation like that, I mean, what is it that you would say if you're a captain on this team, one of the leaders on this team, and you see a situation like that, and you see how talented a guy is too? They're just handling it, just a little bit more difficult, right? And you need that guy, not just in this game, but going forward because he's such a talent.
Yeah. I think the best ways, man, is obviously, as brothers out there, doing the same thing, going to war together, you go put your arm around them, right? You say a few encouraging words, just let them know that, hey, man, like, we got your back. And that's where the off the field bonds are strongest. Like, now when I come up to you and we've had a bond off the field, right? Like, I have your best interests, right? And things of that nature. It's not just out, it's not one in and out the other. But you gotta let them know, you gotta give them a two-way, like, right? Like, it's, look, man, we got you, like, we're on your back and stuff like that. But at the same time, you gotta be realistic with them too, right? Like, this, you're not getting the ball that many opportunities, and that's why the head is down. That's why the towel is over your head, because man, maybe I got 5 plays, right? Maybe I got 5 plays, and I put the ball on the ground. Those 5 plays are done. And then next week, right, if that ball goes on the ground next week or any other week after that, the coaches have to trust you each and every time. And, the biggest thing was, like, for me, learning how to play running back and stuff like that, and wanting to keep getting, bigger workloads throughout my career, was they got to trust you, right? Like, if I can't trust you with 5 to 10 plays, right, how do I trust you with 15 to 20 plays, right? So obviously that hurts him, knowing that obviously, the career he's had so far, been a little bit up and down and things like that. And now going out there and putting the ball on the ground, like, the fumbling is the worst thing you could do as a player on offense. Yeah. Like, it's like you can drop a pass, you don't even think about it really, right? But a fumble, man, it'll eat you up for weeks. Like, I've had, a fumble here and there, and it's all you think about all week in practice, all game the next game, until you get like 2-3 games under your belt where you don't put it on the ground, right? Like, you almost trusting yourself, and then the coaches have to trust you. So I think for him, man, you just gotta continue to keep doing it, keep putting the work, do the extra stuff at practice, ball security stuff, and it happens, right? Like, you're going to fumble. I don't think there's any football player who's never fumbled, right? There's guys in the Hall of Fame, basketball, football, with a ton of turnovers, right? It happens. It's all about how you respond from it. And I think the team is built well for him to understand that, and they got the right guys around him. So hopefully he does get some more opportunities here coming real soon, because he is a dynamic player. He changes the game. Yeah, he changes how defense scheme up for them in the red zone. And he could be that wildcat guy and do some stuff down there for sure. So, he'll be fine. Like I said, like, the staff and the players around him are going to be with him the whole way through. It's a fumble. It's not the end of the world. But still, I think just overall for him, just like, you only get so many opportunities right now, and how where you're at currently on the roster or whatever. So it eats you up a little bit differently when you're not going to get that many opportunities.
For sure. So we've kind of talked about the keys to the victory already. So it's nothing that we really need to rehash or anything like that. Kind of want to talk about what we liked with the offense, liked with the defense. And before even kicking into that, something I want to mention, man, because I know we like talking about some of the more difficult matchups that Utah had seen as well, is Wyoming safety Andrew Johnson, as well as their linebacker Evan Eller. Those guys, let's be honest. I mean, if the Wyoming defense was full of guys like that, that would have been a lot more difficult for Utah. And those two did give Utah's future opponents some tape going forward on maybe how to handle this offense. I was really impressed with somebody like Johnson that was able to take and square up Dampier one-on-one in the open field when that's not something you're going to see very often, with Utah opponents trying to handle Devon. So what were some of the things that you saw out of this, more specifically, that really kind of caught your attention?
Yeah, it was a good challenge overall for the offense. Like, this defense, we knew coming into this game they were one of the best defenses through the first 2 weeks. Now, still, obviously, the opponents they play, so things can be,
Right.
Look a little different on paper sometimes. But like I said, it's a home game for these guys, right? Like, it's a big game coming up for them. They're 2-0. They're trying to go 3-0, right? And you can go knock off a school like Utah, ranked number 20 at home. That's a big game. That's a big game. So those guys are ready and jacked up to go. And I think defensively, they played lights out. They played really good ball in the first half. Like, they got out of there. It was 3-0 at halftime, right? If you could have asked them where do they want to be at halftime, going into that game, they probably would have told you 10-0, 17-0, 14-0, something like that. Not 3-0.
Should have been.
Yeah, not 3-0. So, they played really good. Obviously, ended up, they got their back broken at the back end just because the offense couldn't put stuff together. And that's kind of to your question just a few minutes ago, because Wyoming experienced that. Like, your defense is playing really good, right? If the offense could have just capitalized at any moment of time, 7-3 or 10-3, 14-3 in that first half, it's a totally different ball game. But their defense looked really good, and I knew that they were going to come in and play really good ball defensively because we haven't seen an explosive offense. So when you're not an explosive offense that can score in 4 or 5 plays, right? I love the 19-play drives. Don't get me wrong, I love it.
They had another.
Yeah, another one. So I love seeing that. I don't love what that shows, right? It shows the lack of explosiveness. At the end of the day, that's what it's showing. If you got to go out there and put 19 play drives, 12, 15 play drives, almost like it's normalcy there, it's showing that it's not explosive, right? The offense is not explosive. The passing game looked well. Dampier had about 230 yards. And some guys stepped up in the passing game and stuff like that. But still, it's just not the explosiveness. It's not a balanced offense yet, I think. I think it's still, you lean more run heavy, but you can't fault them in a sense because the offensive line is so damn good. If you're just going to move people at your will, right, we'll kind of be foolish to not just turn around and hand the ball off. You got 4 guys over 60-plus rushing yards last night. Like, that was whopping. That was ridiculous to see because you don't see that, right? Like, 4 guys with 60-plus, I think they were about 311 total yards. So, like, and that's the efficiency I keep talking about. Like, you don't need the one bell back, right? They don't need that one guy taking all the carries. They got multiple different guys that can do different things, which then keeps your defense, off balance and stuff like that. So it was nice to see those things. But their defense was really good, Wyoming, and obviously I didn't think their offense was good at all. I think when we did the over-under, and when we did the predictions as well, I think I had them at Wyoming at like 10 points because I didn't think their offense could, muster drives together and stuff like that. I mean, it was almost a shutout until the last couple minutes of that ball game.
I thought they were going to get it. Wyoming's just got some explosive guys that just, towards the end, Utah got lackadaisical, which who can blame, right?
Pride for Wyoming to go out there and make sure they put something on the board because they played so well defensively. The offense, quarterback play just wasn't there. But our defense looked really, really good. Like, you can't, Daly had 2 sacks, I believe, in a strip sack at the same time, and Benny had another interception. So it's like, the guys on that side of the ball look well. They're ready, and they get a great test this upcoming week. But overall, I think they still did exactly what we assumed they would do. It just took a little bit longer, right? Mm-hmm. And now, that was a later game. Now we talk about a 10 a.m. game. If you could start late at 6 o'clock, man, and you're starting late at 6 in the day, how slow are you going to start at 10 a.m.? Because now
what was the earliest you've had? From in college. In college, what was the earliest game you had?
Maybe it was an Arizona State game.
It's like home. 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, like 1 or 2. But it changes everything. Like it changes your entire routine. And Coach Witt in the press, he said the 10 a.m. won't bother them. I believe that. Like I don't think it will because they've been in this conference. They've played more day games. So tweaking your schedule and stuff like that isn't going to be as drastic as it would have been a couple of years ago when you're playing 8 o'clock games, 7 o'clock games, right? And switch all the way to 10 a.m. But I need to see a fast start offensively, right? Even if things get tailed down a little bit in the second half, that's fine, right? But what we've seen so far the last 2 games, right? Everybody loves the first UCLA game. It's the first game of the year, right? Everybody feels good. Everybody's excited. Everybody's ready to go out there and lay everything on the line. So they started off really well. They started off fast. They put a lot of points on the board quick. These last 2 games, right, once reality is settled in, okay, you got some more film. We got some injuries. We got some of this. Guys a little more beat up, essentially just from wear and tear stuff. Now it's been slow starts back-to-back weeks versus opponents that, aren't highly respected in that sense, right? Football is still football, so you got to go out and do it. But still, the respect level of those 2 opponents, you kind of missing that factor. So to see that, have these slow starts mixed with the penalties, right? Hopefully you can fix it in a week. I don't know. I don't think that's possible. But they're going to have to figure it out quickly before 10 a.m. on Saturday, or it can get to a point where, I think they are better than Texas Tech, overall, but you don't want to be in a situation where, it's a back and forth game in that sense.
You talk about the explosiveness, right?
Yeah.
And that's where Texas Tech has that. Utah has it, but not at the level that some of us are wanting to see yet.
Yeah.
And so that's where some of that concern can kind of come in, and you talk about, and I didn't mean to cut you off, man. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good.
Like you talk about like the penalties too. You talk about some of the slower starts. You look at like the play where Devon fumbled the ball and he was able to pick it up, and that was outrageous, right? That's guys can't just make that play, but at the same time too, you look at the luck on that as well, and it's like you can't get away with that sometimes when the competition gets better.
Yeah. We'll see. What the game. The great thing is we're not questioning the offense ability, right? The ability is there, right? They've put it on tape 3 weeks in a row. They continue to go over 400.
They're fun to watch.
Yeah, like they putting up the yardage. They're moving the ball. They had over 30 first downs. Even with all these penalties, they had over 30 first downs. So, and they were efficient again on third downs, 9 for 15, right? You don't want to be in that many damn third downs, 15 opportunities for that. But that had to do with the penalties as well. So, but they still are very efficient, and the ability is there, and things are in the right place for this team. Now, the big thing is, okay, let's cut down the penalties. Let's get to a quicker start, and find that rhythm, and things of that nature. And obviously, like you said, we want to see the explosiveness. We want to see, Dampier with 350 yards, right, throwing that ball down the field and things of that nature. But they are explosive in their own way, right? And their explosiveness comes from their consistency, like being able to use multiple different guys in different areas and continue to play ball that way. Because sometimes when you're an explosive offense too, you can get behind the sticks really fast in some of those drives and you stall out very quickly. And like I was watching the Tennessee game yesterday, and Tennessee's an explosive offense, right? When they were firing at all, things was hitting on all cylinders. The guy was 14-14, right? They were up, put 21 points in the first quarter, right? But at the same time, when you're one of those explosive teams where you don't have a ton of balance and everything is built on explosiveness, right? They stalled out a lot of those drives that allowed Georgia to come back to get in the game. So I think our offense is built very well. Like, it is built very well. You do just want to see a few of those little sprinkle plays just to let defenses know, hey, we can stretch the field if we want to.
Mm-hmm.
We just haven't seen that part yet. But the best is yet to come. We got conference play coming up.
And when it comes down to that stuff, there's one thing I wanted to point out, just from a number standpoint on the guys getting the ball, right? But you mentioned getting it down deep and everything. I can't say, and you tell me if I'm completely off base on this. I can't say that I've seen a great deep ball from Dampier yet, to the point where when I saw him make that just quick reaction throw to Simmons, that touchdown pass, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like, okay, do they need to start drawing up something where it's just like, okay, this is what we're doing to just gun it, right? Maybe that's a solution. I don't know. But that is one area where it's like, okay, when are we going to see this? When are we going to see this? That's an element that we need to see. But at the same time, they're, piling up those yards. So should that really be a concern? Now, the other thing too, okay, I can't remember the exact total. I want to say there was about 10 guys that caught passes last night.
Yeah.
Ryan Davis had 10 for 91.
Yeah.
That's
91.
big, because you want to see a go-to guy emerge. You want to see them piling up the yards. At the same time, too, you take a look at that. 3 of those guys that caught those passes were wide receivers. 4, if you want to count Buchanan, who's kind of that hybrid, kind of Brant Keithy freshman year wide receiver mold.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, I mean, I'm just at that point where I'm ready to say Utah's got enough ball catchers. It doesn't matter receiver wise. Utah's got enough ball catchers that can get the job done, and it's they make it a fun offense. But at the same time, too, I still want to see more of those receivers emerge.
Yeah, definitely want to continue to see them. I think Bentley played a really good game as well last night in the passing game. I mean, the receiving game as well. But you definitely want to keep seeing guys, right? Like Davis obviously having the 10 for 91, 10 catches. I don't know how many targets, but 10 catches. It's not a bad thing. I think, you want to see more, but I think, like I said, this offense is kind of like the run game. Like, you're not going to see one guy be the guy over, like, every time you look at the stat sheet coming out of the game. Okay, we know this guy was going to do what he was going to do, right? There's going to be variety there, and sometimes it's good, right? Do you want the same cereal every week, every day, or do you want to have 4 or 5 different boxes of cereal that you can alternate through to keep things fresh, right? So they got a good thing going with that. Like, as long as those guys keep maturing and growing, right, and keep getting better, I think that's the main thing. Like, you're not going to get the one tailback. I don't think we're going to get the one receiver, right? I think we're going to keep having these guys like Davis can have a 10 for 91, right? Maybe next week you have somebody else in that same position where they go get 6 for 80, right? Something like that. So you're going to keep having these guys have their weeks. Okay, is your week this week? Is this guy's week this week? And I think, honestly, that's harder to defend than, just having, okay, this is my X receiver. This is the guy that, the game plan is around, right? And say this guy's having a bad game, or now you flip things within the game. Sometimes that works out if you have a really good guy, right? You have a really, really good dominant receiver. The way they're doing things right now, is efficient. Like I keep saying, is efficient, and consistency is probably, I feel like if I sit in the meeting, I feel like efficiency and consistency are maybe the 2 things that are being preached a lot about this offense and who they need to be, right? They don't need to be a super juggernaut and throwing up this pass and Dampier throwing 45 passes a game. That's not where they're going to win. They're going to win with him being a threat with his legs and still being super efficient in the air and making the right decisions. This guy still has no turnovers, no picks. You want to see that, and that's great for the first 3 games for him, for his confidence, and for the confidence of Beck on what he can call and what he wants to call. So they put a few plays on tape of some play action deep shots that just didn't, mature to anything. But you could tell they have it. Like the play when he fumbled and he picked it up and he just rocket launched it. I think his decision making is great because he knew he knew that guy probably was open before he even fumbled the ball or had a chance to be open, because you don't just pick that up and just throw it, right? Most guys pick that up and either throw it out of bounds really fast or just fall on it and keep the 3 points, right? But he has a knack to him for sure that, Beck's going to keep calling these plays to allow him to put that talent on the field and show that deep ball. The guys catching it and running it just got to be there for him. And I think they will. They'll get to the point where, it looks better. This is a good first start. Guys in the receiver room making the plays.
You talk about the stuff with turnovers. No turnovers from Dampier yet, which is huge, especially after last year, right? On top of that, I mean, he was under 60% completion percentage last year. He's at 73 right now.
Yeah.
So he's growing by leaps and bounds and getting better and better, which is scary, right? We talk about the deep ball stuff, and that is an element that needs to be added. But again, it's 3-0. They're looking good. We're nitpicking. That's what you do in situations like that. We need stuff to talk about, right? And there's always stuff to be able to still improve on.
Yeah, no one's perfect, right?
It's important.
So no one's perfect, so we're always gonna find something, right? Like I like when I played up at the U, my running back coach, I could have 150 yards, man, and it was still something. And the next morning you came in, man, you could have had 10 extra yards here. You could have had this right here. It's just that competition in that lion inside of you that's always looking for more and looking for the best version of what you can get out of something. So even when these guys are putting up, 400 plus yards, and the efficiency is one of the best in the country in red zone and third downs and no turnovers, and the line is blowing guys out of the water. You walk into that meeting on Sunday, right, or Monday, whenever they go in there and watch the film again, those coaches aren't praising nothing. They might highlight, all right, this was nice, this is good, let's keep more of that. But everything else is the problems. Oh, okay, we got to do better here, right? And that is what breeds champions. That's what makes people, just in everyday life, right, better. Like that's what you want. You want people to continue to try to push you and get you to new heights, so you don't stall out. So, yeah, we're definitely nitpicking for sure. But we definitely believe there's a lot of meat left on that bone for this offense through the first 3 weeks to look this damn good with a new regime. Yeah, with a new regime and all this type of stuff offensively and new pieces and new guys. You couldn't have asked for a better first 3 weeks. So I'm looking forward to another really good 3 weeks and, come out here 6-0. That'd be awesome.
And just a couple other things, and we can kind of kick into closing down here. But, you talk about how smooth everybody's looking, okay? And you talk about some of the penalties earlier. There were some penalties from guys that are elite that are going to play a long time on Sundays, right? That they're tricks of the trade kind of things that they're doing that sometimes they're going to get called on, right? Yeah. You look at defensively Smith just with his hand on the shoulder pad. There's just little things that this defense is taught that they're going to get busted on sometimes. Yeah. That's one of those maybe nitpick questionable calls. Okay. You look at something like Spencer Fano got called for at least 2 penalties last night. One of those, the guy turns his shoulder at the very last second, right? When he's already going to push him off, and he gets called for a block in the back.
Yeah.
And so I get where, maybe they were saying some of those were questionable. At the same time, too, you're not going to try to coach it out of guys like Smith Snowden or Logan Fano. I'm sorry, not Logan, Spencer Fano, right? Yeah. Another thing to mention, okay, and I don't know if you caught this. I only caught this because my guy Ivan Withers posted this on social media. Nakari Rogers on one of his carries. Again, I don't know at what point this was, But there was a play where Nakari ends up getting a decent, just tough short yardage run, and somebody from Wyoming, I'm not going to say who it was because it looked like it could have been one of three guys, okay, ends up twisting his leg, twisting his ankle. He gets up, and it looked like he at the end of the clip, it looked like he was grabbing his leg. It's so again, you don't know what went on with that. You talk about the bell cow kind of situation that would be nice at running back, but it's not always needed. So we don't know going into this Texas Tech game what could have happened. We don't know if the end of that game was the sign of, with Wayshawn and with Hunter getting the carries. Same time too, man, you talk about all those guys being able to step up in the run game too. What are your thoughts on Hunter Andrews, man? Because here's my thing, okay, is everybody wants to call him Brant Keithy 2.0. He's his own man, dude, because Keithy wanted to run around the edges. Hunter wants to run and pop you in the mouth. It's similar, but also very different at the same time. And this guy is going to be something special.
Yeah, he's a talent for sure. In the pass game and the run game, like that's the guy that you can use, and that's why they're going to continue to be one of the best red zone offenses, right? Like he's not a explosive guy where he could strike for 40, 50, 60 yards and stuff like that in that sense right now. But where his main thing is that he's going to help this team right now is just being another guy that they can use at a high level in the red zone, right? Like that allows other people to get open. Like, because now when he's down there in the red zone, if he's in the Wildcat, he's in the backfield, he can run routes. Obviously, they can put him in the backfield. You got Dampier, you got Andrews, you got one of your running backs on one side and the two back set. That challenges the defense a lot because now you got two options to run routes, and you got a mobile quarterback in the red zone. The number one threat in the red zone is a mobile quarterback. Like when you can do that, look at a guy like Jalen Hurts. The Eagles are always one of the best red zone offenses, just strictly off of the tush push or whatever, but still the opportunity of him being able to hand this ball off or take it and now throw it or run it in. It's like you got almost three plays in one, and that's very hard to defend. But he's a really good player. I'm gonna love to see what they continue to develop for him, because a guy like that, you make special plays for. You draw up certain things for him, and luckily for him, he has an OC that knows that he is going to be a special player and that he has a lot of intangibles to himself that you can't coach, right? He's one of those chess pieces you can just kind of keep moving around and doing different things, and he can excel. Mentally, he can excel in those things. Like I've played with guys that, dynamic, but aren't able to go mentally and do these things now, right? I'm gonna put you over here. I'm gonna put you at this position. I'm gonna put you over here. I need you to do this route. Some guys aren't able to do that because there's a lot on their plates. And they kind of just want to stick to the main things. But he looks like a guy right now that will continue to elevate his game, right? And is going to be able to do a lot of different things for this team in the upcoming future. So I'm excited for that. I know the OCs, all the office guys are happy about that, because when you get a guy like that can do so many different things, man, you don't have to keep digging in your bag of tricks and things of that nature. You can just line up guys and go tell them go win. That's the main thing.
Yeah, so 11 touches between rushing it and receiving for Andrews, 106 yards. That's just another thing that Texas Tech is going to have to watch on film and figure out. And so that's we talked about that being something that wanting to show a little bit more of this game that Texas Tech was just going to have to pay that much more attention to. That's one of them right there.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Let's start winding this down, man. When it comes down to it, any other closing thoughts on Wyoming, or are we wanting to kick into the game that, like, look, let's be honest. I don't know that Utah really overlooked Wyoming.
Yeah.
Wyoming had a good defense. They did. Yeah. But the way they started that game and then the way they came out after halftime, I get that, it would have been a lot different if the points would have gone in, from a field goal perspective in the first half. But I'm willing to say Utah probably overlooked Wyoming a little bit because it is such a big matchup heading into this week with Texas Tech, where whoever wins this game is going to be viewed as being in the driver's seat for the conference.
Yeah. Not. I don't want to say they overlooked them. I think the competitiveness was there in the first half. I think a lot of signs show that the team did show up. They just didn't get the points in the red zone because of the penalties and getting behind the sticks and stuff like that. But like you said, a few minutes ago, also like the penalty on final, a few of those, and then you had the one with Snowden's hand on the guy's shoulder. Like you said, you don't want to coach that out of them guys. That's the competitive edge that you need to allow them to have to continue to stay aggressive, right? Because every week those aren't going to be called, right? And Coach Witt said in his press conference, some of the penalties were justified and some were head scratchers sometimes, right? And that's just sometimes how the games go sometimes. Sometimes you're going to get those ones where, like I said, as long as it's not, after the whistle penalties, right? Now you have a culture problem. You got a problem where you got to coach guys to not do stupid things that hurt the team. But when you're getting penalties where guys are playing, they're in the right spots, right? And then they're not just getting beat and then they're doing something where, DN beats this guy and now he just grabs them to stop him from getting to the quarterback. You're not looking at things like that. We're looking at guys just competing their butts off, and sometimes, depending on who's looking at it, they might call the flag. So like I said, it's a bad thing because we saw so many penalty yards in the first half. But that can be coached up and it will be coached up. But to the Texas Tech game, that's where the focus is for sure, right? Like I don't think we saw a lot of the offense last night where it was a lot of, big play calls. I think everything to some degree was a lot of stuff they had been doing already throughout the first couple of games. But this week, this is the week. Like you said, this is who might be driving that car right now in the first place and stuff like that. So I'm excited for it. I think, my outlook for the game, honestly, is, how does our defense respond to their first real explosive offense, right? They've played three bad offenses the first three games, and they've looked really good, and guys have had their bright spots, right? Which is great. You love that for confidence. You love that for, now what the coaches and Scally and those guys may want to call, right, from what they've been able to put on tape so far. I want to see, obviously, this is explosive offense coming in here, right? They're probably ranked, they were 11 the other night, so they're probably maybe moved up a little bit, maybe stayed, whatever, right? So it's a big game. Yeah. So it's a big game. You got big noon kickoff coming here. So the crowd and things of that nature is going to be awesome. It's going to be a great atmosphere. So defense, that's the main thing, right? The defense is going to be the main thing to this ball game. Like if you can get 2 takeaways, right, they'll be perfect. If it's a shootout game, which I hope it's not, you just never know, right? The shootout can go 50-50. Whoever has the gun last essentially can figure out a way to pull the game out or whatever. But yeah, I think defensively is going to be the main thing. Can those pass rushes look like our pass rushes have looked the last couple of weeks versus this type of team, right? Because when you throw the ball a lot like Texas Tech does, clearly they're going to recruit really good offensive linemen, right? Guys who can hold up in pass protection, right? So the line is going to have a great challenge against these guys. Our linebackers, I think, are going to be a changing point in the game because you're going to have to eliminate something from this game plan for Texas Tech. And I think it's really going to come down to our backers, right? Our backers have been good. They haven't been, overwhelmingly bad or overwhelmingly good. They've been good. So I think they're going to have a really good challenge this week because I think the game plan is going to rely on taking away the middle of the field, right? And they're going to get tested in coverage and things of that nature as well. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the defense to really show their first real sign to the conference that when you play this defense, man, we're taking things away and you're going to play the way we want you to play. And if you can beat us that way, kudos to you, but you're not going to come in here or anywhere on the road and dictate to us essentially how this game is going to go for you guys offensively.
Absolutely. So Yeah, you said a bunch of what I would say on that. One thing that I think is really going to be vital, and I think it was Terrell that talked about it on the 48-hour rule last week. Morgan really preaches the fact of like, look, there's going to be explosive plays that happen in this game. It's bound to happen. Texas Tech has a good offense. It's about minimizing it. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's about how can you gather yourself and regroup and, lessen what just happened. So that's going to be a huge important thing. From an offensive standpoint, I really feel like, as much as you want to see those explosive plays might have to come at points of necessity. I think a lot of times in a game like this, you're such a big fan, obviously, of like the 19 play drives and so on, which Utah's done numerous times already this year. If Utah can get a drive or two like that bodes well for them, especially with this kind of defense. So those are some key things just on both sides to be looking for. And you talk about it being early, you talk about it being a big noon kickoff. Obviously, the earliest you played at Utah was either 1 or 2, so this is even more extreme than that. Ute fans are gonna be out there, they're gonna be up and excited early because of the show coming into town. You got old Utah coach, the legend Urban Meyer, but they're Ute fans are gonna have to be throwing back their favorite Bloody Mary mixes, their favorite Bloody beers. They're gonna have to be throwing back, loads and loads of energy drinks, man, because they're gonna have to come ready just like the team is, because I think it's important, for fans to hear from somebody like you just how vital they are and how big of a difference they can make in big games like this, because it's been talked about plenty. Rice Eccles after dark is much different than early in the day.
That's a great what you're just talking about. After dark, man, they have a great reputation. There's no place really that you want to play at nighttime, if you're a road team and coming into Rice Eccles, man, especially when we had those blackout games and all that type of stuff. Like that's an atmosphere for sure. Different era now, right? Different era. So now, just as much as those guys, the fans and the Musts and everybody in there took pride on, making it a tough ass place to come play, right? And that being something that people talk about, right? Year after year after year, right? Now you got to go do it in these daytime games, right? And I know I've seen a lot of stuff on social media. It's 10 a.m. People got kids, and maybe the kids got, a soccer game, baseball game, some, stuff like that to go to, which is all valid. It is absolutely valid. But when you're raising, the future Ute fans, they gotta be invested, right? They gotta be invested. The coaches for their youth teams, they should be at this game, right? So now it's time to make that reputation for these day games, because
cancel U Sports this Saturday. Cancel U Sports.
You got it.
Right?
We got to blast it. We got to cancel things, man. We got to need everybody there. But now it's time to make that reputation in these day games, because obviously a lot of it, people don't think of day games in Utah as something that is hostile. That should be a direct, needle in the side of people's heads about, man, we got to come show up, right? Like, because just as much as the players need to show up, we depend on our fans being in there and making this place loud, and that bodes so well for defenses and offenses. Like when we go play road games, no matter what level I've been on, when we go play road games and we know we're going into a hostile environment, there's crowd noise. We get the big old speakers at the practice field, and you just blast fans noise the whole time you're doing these practices, because it does impact you. It changes things for the team, right? If a team has to go into a silence cadence, right, how they're going to snap the ball, that's big, because they have to go practice that, right? If I can just walk into a road game and I don't have to worry about none of that, I can just get to whatever cadence I want to. I can play as comfortable as I want. That's not going to bode well for our defense and things of that nature. So yeah, we definitely need everybody to be as loud as they can, be there. It's going to be a great atmosphere, and the reputation starts Saturday. Like these games and these road teams coming in here, like they got to start to hate it as much as they hated the dark games, the night games. So I think our fans, we have great fans, man. Like legitimately, we have great fans. Like when I was in Buffalo and being here, those are the two best fan bases, right? And you can think about everybody knows about Bills Mafia and things of that nature. So we really have some really good fans, and I've seen it. So I think they're going to show up. Obviously, I think they understand what's at stake here. Like this could be Coach Witt's last run. We don't know. This could be the start of something new for the fans and making sure that they know, man, we got a reputation out here ourselves, right? We got a reputation ourselves, and we got to make sure this new conference that we're in understands that.
And let's be honest too. This game, because Texas Tech does not have the history, and I'm going to be very careful so I don't get snipped and thrown all over the place like their guy did, right? Texas Tech does not have the history, but they've got the oil money. They've spent in the right ways where they're building in the trenches, okay?
Yeah.
Notice anybody that wants to clip me right now, they can't clip me. but you know, so Texas Tech is a team that could be on the rise. We don't know. We've seen Texas A&M, we've seen USC, we've seen all these other teams spend money stupidly, and it's both stupidly with the amount and stupidly on how they did it because it didn't amount to wins. Okay. This could be one of those games, though, that in the public perception, and especially towards the end of the season, can really elevate Utah if they win it. Same can be said for Texas Tech as well if they beat Utah, right? So this is one of those games where the winner of this game, the AP voters, which is another conversation in and of itself with some of the stupidity on how some of those guys have been ranking teams. Okay.
Yeah.
This is one of those games that could vault the winner very close to the top 10 and very much on that national conscious of like, okay, these guys are a dark horse. These guys are a team to really pay attention to with the CFP. Either team, the winner. Okay. So that is how vital this game is for everybody. And so that is why it's important for the fans to get out there and be that difference maker that they are, that Caleb Williams, of all people, and everybody else, but Caleb Williams especially, hates so bad to see at night, right? So it's important to start that and show to everybody that this fan base is ready. It does not matter the time of day. It does not matter the day of the week. And so it's extremely vital, man. It can change. We'll get out of here in a second. It can change before we do the 48-hour rule, but initial thoughts on how you expect this game to go down and score prediction if you want to give it right now. And again, it can change when we're doing the 48-hour rule with the guys.
Yeah. I'm gonna stick with what I'm gonna say. I think through Saturday. I got the Utes, obviously, winning it. I think it's gonna be a tough game. I think it's gonna be a little slow at the beginning. You kind of like feeling kind of like a boxing match in a sense. It's gonna be real slow. I think around that third quarter is where we're gonna see a lot of fireworks offensively on both sides of the ball. Go and get the halftime adjustments, and you kind of can figure out what you want to attack really fast until they adjust it again. But I got the Utes in a 24-21 game. I think it's gonna be low scoring in that sense. These defenses both going to be tested. And offensively for us, we're going to be efficient still. We're going to do us, right? Like you were saying, like the main thing for us, sometimes that explosiveness stuff is great, right? But our true main ability and our identity, what I think we are now that it's been 3 weeks, I'm hanging my hat on it now, is the consistency and the efficiency. Like we're going to use multiple guys, right? Most guys are going to step up each and every week. We're not going to count on one specific person in this different department. We're going to look for a lot of guys to do a lot of different things. It's going to be a real group effort. So I think that's going to put some some tough stuff up for Texas Tech to kind of defend. So, yeah, I got us in 24-21 win. I kind of want to go 27-21. And I think our kicker is going to make some kicks for us to kind of put this thing away. So, yeah, I'm going to use 24-21 over Texas Tech.
Dude, Curtis is going to be a stud kicker. That's
he's going to be fun.
Everybody needs to remember he's young. This is, I want to say, year 3 of him kicking. Okay. He's going to make adjustments. He's got a hell of a leg. At one point, he's going to start kicking for the accuracy and just, and being smart about it, as opposed to, hey, my legs got me here. I'm gonna keep rolling with it. The strength and the distance. For me, I agree with you. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be hard fought. I'm going to go 31-27. And when it comes down to it, I really think Utah closes the game out and seals the deal with one of those trademark long drives that they've been doing, where it's getting close to 20 plays. It's getting up there in the amount of minutes.
It's time possession is going to be a big thing.
It's going to be crucial because, again, when you can minimize those explosive plays, which they are going to happen. Okay. When you can minimize them, that's important. And I think there's going to be nothing better than Utah winning a close, hard fought game. And, where both teams look good in the national spotlight, and, Utah just closes it out with that trademark, just pound them and just run out the clock. So that's what I'm looking for on it. We're going to wrap this. Cal, hopefully I did you well, man, but get your ass back there. We need you. So Zack can only take so much of me, but hey, Zack, appreciate you as always, man.
Yes, sir.
As always, how do we close these things out?
Yep. Another good week. Utes go 3-0. Looking for another big game this upcoming week. But make sure we are your number one place to continue to get all your Utah information. You don't want to miss everything we got coming up. So continue to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit us up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And make sure you share with your Utah fans and family and people of everybody. So make sure you do that. And we appreciate you guys always tuning in.
Appreciate it, man.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
man. Hey, Ute fans, you gotta come early next week. You gotta be ready. Let's do this. Let's show the nation what Utah football is all about, not just at the night games.
Yep. Go Utes.
Welcome to the players' lounge. Yeah. When no other moment, man, it can't compare. Due to the obvious, people look at me and then they envious. And they the ones that be grinning and acting the friendliest.